Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today I am bringing you the story of a sister from Europe who accepted Islam. In her younger years, she lived a very reckless life, drinking alcohol, constant partying, and spending everything she earned during the week on weekend parties. That was basically her whole life. But how did she first come across Islam and how did she eventually become Muslim? Let's hear the full story directly in her own words.
Peace to everyone watching. My name is Persephone, and today I want to share my life story with all of you. This isn't a lecture, and it's not an attempt to convince anyone or to make anyone accept Islam. It's just like friends sitting together and talking from the heart. That's exactly how I want to share my story with you today. When I was a teenager, honestly, I didn't even know what I was doing with my life. I was like a bull in a china shop, crashing through everything without thinking. The moment I heard the word weekend, my mind would jump straight to parties, loud music, chaos, alcohol, and non-stop fun. I truly believed that this was what enjoying life meant. As soon as Friday came around, the group chats would light up. Whose ID are we using? What are we wearing? Where are we drinking first? Who's driving us into the city? These conversations were as normal in our friend group as making plans for evening coffee. Spending the night at clubs and staying out until 4 or 5 in the morning was completely normal for us. From there, we'd end up at someone's place, and the next day I'd wake up with a pounding headache, a weak body, and this strange emptiness in my chest. I got into fights with other girls, and more than once people even threw cigarettes at me. But back then, I honestly didn't care about any of it. Little by little, drinking became too much. Alcohol turned into my way of dealing with my emotions. If I was sad, I drank. If I was in a good mood, I drank. If I was angry, I drank. If I felt lonely, I drank. Inside, I was falling apart, but on the outside, I kept smiling and laughing. I was going through a phase of life that I didn't even understand myself. I couldn't see any real purpose in my life. I wanted to make my life better, but the truth is, I didn't even know what better really meant, or how I was supposed to get there. After finishing college, during the summer before starting university, I took a temporary job at a call center. That's where I became friends with a girl named Halima. She was Muslim. Over time, she became a close friend, and her friendship felt very different from my previous ones, pure, sincere, and without any hidden motives. She gently invited me toward a more positive way of living, but in a very subtle way. She never preached to me or pushed religion on me. She rarely talked about faith directly. Most of her conversations were about good character and the positive side of life, and she simply practiced her religion quietly through her actions. I used to joke back with her and say, "You've never really enjoyed a party, so how would you even know what the fun is? Come spend one full weekend with us, 24 hours, and then you'll see how much fun all of this actually is." She would always just laugh and brush it off. One day she told me that Ramadan was coming. I asked her what that was. She explained it to me in a very simple way. You stay away from food and drink during the day, you control your desires, and you stay mindful of God. I told her, that doesn't sound that hard. I could do that too. She smiled but didn't say anything. Seeing her stay quiet, I added, I want to try fasting too. Honestly, at that point, religion wasn't on my mind at all. This was just a personal challenge for me. My ego was saying, it's only 30 days, of course I can do this. When I started fasting, I was still partying and still drinking at that time. But the moment the fast began, something inside me started to change. Slowly, I began to feel that I deserved a better life than the one I was living. My worth was much greater than all that noise, the drinking, and the lack of self-respect. I started to feel like I was destroying myself. And I realized that Halima had been right. I really did need to change my lifestyle and move toward a more positive way of living. That one month became a major turning point in my life. It taught me self-control, it taught me gratitude, and it taught me how to take care of my body and my heart. For the first time, I started to see myself as someone who actually mattered. That was my very first step toward Islam, even though at the time I didn't realize I was moving toward Islam at all. I thought I was just trying to live a more positive life. As a child, I went to Sunday school. My parents wanted my sister and me to have some understanding of faith. My father would go to church occasionally, and even though my mother didn't really go to church herself, she still wanted us to know about God. But they never forced anything on us. In our family, there weren't any Muslims, honestly, not even very strict Christians. During my first year after starting university, I began seriously reading about Islam. I asked questions, looked at books, and talked to Muslims. I was living in a university dorm at the time, and I would go back and forth between there and my parents' home. But they had no idea that deep down, I had already begun a very different journey. I kept most things to myself. One day, I suddenly put on a scarf and went home. The moment people saw me wearing it, everyone was shocked, and I said it very plainly. I've become Muslim. My parents were surprised and worried. They couldn't understand how all of this had happened so suddenly. They weren't angry, just concerned. They kept asking me why I made this decision and whether I really understood what I was doing. My father thought I was just caught up in a phase, that it was emotional and temporary. And honestly, he wasn't completely wrong. I was full of emotion, but it wasn't a passing phase. At that time, I was doing everything in extremes. Without having a deep understanding of the Quran yet, I wanted to act on everything at once. I took bags of clothes that I now thought were inappropriate and threw them out. I removed my long artificial nails. I changed my name on social media, deleted my old pictures, and created a new account so no one would recognize me. I felt like wearing Western clothes was completely wrong. I didn't want to be around people who were drinking, and I avoided places where men and women mixed freely. I became very sensitive about my religious journey and would get irritated by negative questions about Islam. But slowly I began to find balance and clarity. Over time, I changed. Now, I'm much calmer. If a friend wants to drink in front of me, I don't make a scene. Everyone has their own choices. Even among Muslims, everyone has their own level of understanding and practice. Even now, if I'm in a place where there are a lot of men, I wrap my scarf in a way that covers my chest more. It gives me peace. I can move freely from one place to another now. Before, even during a 10-minute walk, people would stare at me again and again. That doesn't happen anymore. I'm not saying my earlier decisions were wrong, just that I did everything all at once. And that also meant I felt like my old friends no longer fit into my life. I had started walking a different path, and they were still standing where they were. I was still in university when I said the Shahada. There was no big plan. I went to a mosque with a list of questions and sat with the Imam. He answered everything very calmly. We talked for about 2 hours. At the end, I took Shahada. In that moment, I was crying and smiling at the same time. It felt like I had finally taken the step I had been searching for so long. The Muslim community welcomed me with open hearts. I found friends who stood by me during difficult times. They showed me what it means to be an Islamic sister. We talk openly, heart to heart. I learned that the people around you are your real wealth in life. They keep reminding me that this world is not our final destination. Before, I used to think this life was everything. Do whatever you want right now. That mindset doesn't fit me anymore. My parents are very supportive now. They've even fasted a few days with me. At first, they were afraid I might lose my true identity. But over time, they saw that I'm still the same person, actually. A better version of myself. I'm more respectful now, more at peace inside, kinder to myself, and more aware of the impact of my actions. My mother now enjoys helping me find simple clothes for myself. There was a time when my mental state was so dark that I tried to take my own life there. Alcohol dragged me into very deep darkness. One night I drank so much that I don't even remember how or when I got home. But the next morning, when I woke up after sobering up, I found myself lying naked on the kitchen floor. That's when I knew this is it. Something has to change. That's why I say with complete certainty, Islam saved me. Because now I know how to come out of that darkness through prayer, by taking care of my heart and body, and by trusting God. If Islam hadn't come into my life, maybe I wouldn't be here today telling you my story. I'll just say this in the end. If a girl who once lived a life as messed up as mine can change, then anyone can. And Islam is the path that leads you toward that change.